So we're going to be tying a size 16 Hackle Stacker blueing olive here. It's on the super dry barbless hook. I always like the curved hooks for emergers. It just sits a little bit lower in the water. I feel like it, especially in flatter water, if fish are being picky, it tends to get eaten a little bit more. So this is Danville 7 denier and olive. This is the lighter olive that they make. Start the thread. This is EP trigger point and bluing olive. And I make sure I have a longer piece than I need because I'm gonna use this as a post and you need something to grab onto. So if you make it short, it's gonna make it difficult later. So it's gonna look like I'm tying in a really long wing, but there's a reason for that. And when I set the wing in, I don't wanna crowd the eye. You wanna leave a couple eye lengths space between. Because with the Hackle Stacker, when you fold it forward, if it's too close, you end up crowding it and it gets a little hard to set. So if you look, I got plenty of space here. I can always fill that in with dubbing or something at the end. So I get the wing set. I'm gonna use this same piece of material for the tail, but this is too much. So what I'm gonna do is just take my scissors. If you push some slack into this, you can remove a chunk of it, because I don't need a whole lot. Bluing olives are pretty skinny bugs. They don't have, if you look at some of the naturals in the water, they don't really have much of a tail. Sometimes it's just this curled up little thing on the surface. Just cut that. And I just continue to taper the body here. That looks about right. And then instead of tying in a rib, I'm just going to use a Prismacolor marker here. So I get my thread where the tail is, and just marker probably about an inch of the thread or an inch and a half. And then the other thing I'm going to do is twist this. So I spin the bobbin clockwise, and it'll cord the thread up really tight. So then when I do this, it's going to make a noticeable rib. If you don't spin it, it doesn't quite show up as much. And just work your way up. So it keeps the fly really thin. You can tie this much smaller, even down to like a 20 or 22, without building up a lot of bulk on the fly. And then this is a whiting cape and grizzly dun. Just a good natural color. You can use a regular dun, light dun, grizzly, whatever you think the fish might like. They're all gonna work. And the other thing I do with hackle, so I'll preen some of these back and then just cut some of the barbs off. So when I tie this in, I have those little stubs of the hackle, and the thread's gonna get stuck in there. So it's not gonna pull out. So the worst thing is get your hackle stem set, everything looks good, and then you go to twist it and it pulls out of the fly. So get that. I like the post to be sticking up at this point. I still have enough here to grab. So I'm gonna wind it up. And I don't wanna go up too far because you have to pull this forward. It slipped out on me. So you have to pull this forward again. So if you go up too far, it's gonna look kind of crowded. So you wind up and then you start wrapping back down to the hook. And the cool thing about the Hackle Stacker is you can put a lot of hackle in a pretty small space. I'm just gonna pull this up. So I'm actually gonna wrap around the post to tie this off. I'm not gonna tie it around the hook because it's just not really, it's wrapped around the post, so I wanna tie it off on the post. Sometimes you have to lift it, get that tight. And at this point I can actually cut this stem off. So this is the tricky part. So you have to start folding these back, and if you pinch it for a second, it'll have a little bit of a memory. Now I got them. You want it to split down the middle because it'll make the fly look a little bit more even. So I'm holding onto this post, pulling these back, and then I drop my thread over the front. If you see, when you pull, all the hackle wants to face upward, kind of like a little struggling bug. And when I still have tension on that, just build up a little bit of a thread dam. Sometimes the hackle wants to shoot forward, but that thread dam will force it up. The other thing, when you cast this fly, it's going to force that wing back. So if it looks like it's going forward a little bit, it's not a big deal. If anything, it just looks like a bug that's stuck in the film and hatching, so I don't think the fish mind. On a bigger fly, you could throw some dubbing in here. But this fly, it looks pretty small and thin, just like the natural, so I don't want to clutter it up with too much stuff. If you want to leave the wing a little long, it's going to be more visible. Think slightly longer than the hackle. That usually looks about right. And this fly floats great. It's a lot of hackle in one spot, and it's all facing up. So the body of it still sits low, but floats really well and just seems to work on picky fish. Hope that helps.